Good morning and good day. Welcome back to Centize, Unity Through Hypnosis. This week, I had fully intended on bringing a guest to talk about their QHHT experience, a dear friend of mine. But life happens and things shift. So this week, I'm being guided to talk about fears. I have talked about the fear of death in a prior episode, but this week we're going to dive into a couple more common fears that people have and how we can find the root to that fear and how we can overcome them. So what is fear, right? Fear is a man-made emotion to control. If you fear something, then you can be controlled. We have grown up and listened to the powers above us, feed us conditions, feed us lies out of manipulation to control us. We have been mere puppets in their play this entire time. But now it is time for us to shift our focus. Instead of allowing them to control us, let's just adjust our thinking. What do I mean by this? Well, let's look at fear as a tool. Like if we have something that we are afraid of, ask yourself why. Why am I afraid of the unknown? Why am I afraid of commitment? Why am I afraid of death? Whatever it is trying to show you something. For example, if you are afraid of commitment, then my question to you would be, what happened in your younger years that hurt you so deeply that caused you to form these walls around your heart? When you can figure out what this is, then it's time to do the most important thing you can do, and that is forgive. You need to truly forgive the person who hurt you. The forgiveness is not for them, it is for you. Do you see how that event is holding you back, controlling you, so to speak? You must see that the person who hurt you in the way that they did, well, they did it because they too were hurt by someone. And then it goes on and on from there. They didn't know better. They didn't have the knowledge and the knowing that we have now. So you must forgive them so that you can break those walls down and release that tie to your old self. As you break free from these fears, you become lighter and more full of love. Now I want you to imagine your body standing in front of you. Now imagine that you have a collar around your neck. Now see that collar having a bunch of ropes attached to it. And each rope has a weight on it. It's pretty heavy, isn't it? However, each time you overcome a fear, then one rope breaks free, leaving you lighter. Pretty incredible, right? Now, another big fear that I find a lot of people have is the fear of failure. We are so afraid to disappoint people, or that we won't live up to someone's standards. Oftentimes, this is when people resort to people pleasing. That is such a terrible habit. I know it. I was there. I used to be a huge people pleaser. I was afraid to disappoint and let everyone down. I never put me first. It took me a long time to come to this realization, but this made me realize that this fear stemmed back to my childhood. And I'm not speaking negatively about my childhood because I set that up to learn the lessons I did. But I was raised as a child that when I brought home my report card, I always had to have A's. We would get paid based on the grade. We could get as low as C's. However, anything below that canceled out another letter. So there was the perfectionism coming into play. And you would get paid more for A's and more for B's and then more for C's. So A's was always the higher. I think it was like $3 for A's, $2 for B's, and then $1 for C's. And then a D canceled out a B, I think it was. And then if you got an F, you just didn't get paid at all. Like, there was a whole system too. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but so this taught the perfectionism in me. And it was hard for me to come out of this. Really, it was. But in this setup of having a perfect report card, this also created competition. And when we have competition, there's always a winner and a loser. So I had to be the best at everything I did, no matter what it was. And if I wasn't, then no one, and I repeat, no one could be more upset with me than me. It was debilitating. And once I realized all of what this was causing, I learned that I am perfect just the way I am. I am who I am, and that is enough. No one is above someone else. And if someone does something, quote unquote, better than me, then that's okay. We all learn things at a different pace, and we aren't supposed to compare our journeys to others. Now, a friend of mine had used this analogy one day when she was explaining something, and I'm taking it from her because it resonated so well for me. So it's like taking two people and sitting them down at the piano and asking them to play. We already know that one will excel faster than the other. And that is okay. Nobody is truly perfect. And if you are working for your boss and they don't like how quickly you are getting something done, then that's on them. Another thing we have to realize is we cannot set expectations for anyone, including ourselves, or have set expectations of how an event will play out, because you need to go through life with no expectation of what is to happen. Now, this might sound confusing, but if your boss has already set up expectations about how long something should take, and when we set up those expectations and someone doesn't meet them, then you set yourself up for disappointment. And that disappointment leads to frustration. Do you see how that cycle works? It goes with everything in life. Everything. Even if you're training a new person, and per the guidelines in the SOP, it says that by week 6, they should be doing this, this, and this, and this on their own. And you're training 2 different people. And one isn't up to those standards. Well, because those expectations have already been put into place and they aren't meeting those expectations, now you're frustrated. Now you're frustrated with this person because you can't understand why they're not grasping the topic as quickly as the SOP says it should. So that frustration leads to anger, leads to resentment. Now you don't even want to take the time to even train them because in your mind, they're not grasping the topic as quickly as you think they should. So you think it's a waste of time, a waste of your time to be training them. No. See, you've set these expectations. These expectations have been set. And whether they've been set by you, whether they've been set by the organization you work for, but these expectations have been set. And it's a grading system of our abilities. And no 2 people learn the same thing at the same pace. We all have our strong abilities that we all have, that we all do, and we're all different. So it's really important to remove expectations. We are meant to create from the heart and create with love. We aren't meant to be robots tied to the machine to give all of our energy to a corporation for 8 hours a day, only then to come home and fall asleep on the couch because you have zero energy to do anything for yourself. Breaking that cycle starts within yourself. And it's important to not give away all of your energy in the job you do. You need to have time and you need to have the energy to create something that brings you pure joy, pure bliss. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be baking bread. It could be making bracelets. It could be painting. It could be literally anything. Reading, writing. As long as you're doing something for yourself, then that's great. But what you don't want to do is give all that energy away at work. Come home miserable, frustrated, unhappy with your day, and then talk about it once you get home, because then what you're doing is you're bringing that energy with you and you're reliving that energy. Every time you talk about something bad that happened during your day, you're reliving that moment. You're reliving that energy, and you're just continuing to drain yourself of the energy that is within you. So my team, they had shown me something that I thought was actually pretty brilliant. Is that whenever you come home from work, if you can, don't talk about your work. Leave your work at work. And I know that's harder said than done, and a lot of people can't do that. And that's okay, right? You want to come home and you want to talk to your spouse, you want to talk to a friend, you want to tell them how your day is. That's fine. Take 20 minutes. Give yourself 20 minutes to talk about your day. And once that 20 minutes is up, be done with it. Don't even think about it. Don't even bring anything up. It could be a couple hours later and be like, oh, I forgot to tell you about this. Nope, your 20 minutes is up. Because after that 20 minutes is done, your day is done. Now it's time to focus on you. What brings you joy? What brings you excitement? One of the things that I absolutely love doing, and you're going to find this hilarious, is meditating. Now, I know we can't live in meditation, and I meditate 2 to 3 times a day. That brings me a lot of joy. But the other thing that brings me even more joy is helping people. And I love talking to people and them telling me something that they're going through. And they'll be telling me what they're doing and what they're experiencing. And I love to give them a new perspective. I enjoy finding the light in every situation. It doesn't matter how dark it seems to be for the person that is in it, because every situation that we are in, that we are dealing with, that we just can't seem to look at from a total worldly view perspective, right? Because we always talk about removing yourself from the situation and looking at it without the blinders on. I enjoy helping people do that. That brings me joy. The other thing that brings me joy is reading and word find books, crossword puzzles, coloring. Now, I enjoy coloring only if they're kids' coloring books. If you give me an adult coloring book, my OCD goes haywire, and I'm like, nope, there is just way too much detail here. No, I can't do it. So a lot of times I'll sit down at night and I've got a whole stack of kid coloring books that I got from the Dollar Tree and a cheap pack of crayons, and I'll just sit there and I'll just color. And I don't give a shit what color I color the cat in the picture. I just look at the crayons and I grab the color that speaks to me and I just start coloring. And what you don't realize is when you're doing stuff like this, when you're coloring, when you're painting, when you're baking, when you're so focused on something that brings you joy, you put yourself into a light hypnosis. We put ourselves into a light hypnosis every single day, even when you're at work, when you're focused on a spreadsheet, when you're focused on a task, you put yourself into a light hypnosis and you're so focused and you're just moving and you're just cruising along. And while you're in that moment, you might get a thought that pops into your head. Well, that thought came in because you have put yourself into a state where your team can communicate with you. And that's when you follow the breadcrumbs. So I know I got off on a little tangent right there, but it's important not to give your energy away to your job. Make sure to make time for yourself and to do the things that bring you joy. Now, another big fear is fear of change. Change can be so hard, even if it is a positive change. But you have to ask yourself, why are you afraid of change? What causes this fear of change? Well, change disrupts the familiar. So you start coming up with all these what if statements. What if I'm not good enough? What if this causes me to lose the person I love? What if this makes things worse? The brain loves patterns. The ego loves predictability. And the nervous system loves routine. So even if life feels unfulfilling, the known feels safer than the unknown. Change forces you to surrender to what used to be so that you can learn to accept the new. However, surrender is hard when most people don't even trust life itself. Most people have been conditioned to believe that they must control everything. And change asks you to let go, and most people don't know how. So how do you let go and move forward with change? You go within. You figure out what led you to feel like you need control of everything all at once. Why do you feel complacent in the present moment, even if it isn't where you want to be? And if that all changed, what would be so scary about it? Those are the big questions. What would be so scary about the change if the change came? I used to fear change. Change was a huge hurdle for me. I am a routine person. I have always been a routine person. Every time I took on a job, I would find a routine, and that routine would keep me going because every single day I knew exactly what I needed to do, when I needed to do it, and the routine it needed to be done in. Steps A through Z. I could do it. It was a habit. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're moving the train forward. You're on autopilot. That's it. Thank you. My team just dropped that in. Autopilot. I was on autopilot a lot. So change was very hard for me to overcome. And I did not do well with change. For example, I worked a job. I'm not going to say which job it was, but I worked a job where I had such a smooth routine in place. I could go through the day, nothing to worry about, literally just autopilot. I start early in the morning. By the time I get off work, I knew my day was good. I knew exactly what was to come tomorrow and what I needed to do. Boy, that was fun, right? No. I felt very bored in the job. But then I had a supervisor who wanted to change the entire process, the entire way that we did everything. Oh, you want to talk about frustration galore? I was like, why change it if it's not broken? Come on. I know you know that saying. A lot of people know that saying. Why change it if it's not broken? Well, it's not broken because no one has changed it. And what if the change was for the better? What if it made your life more efficient? What if it removed several tasks? Instead of having you to work out of 10 spreadsheets, we could just combine them into one. It was about having to learn a new way of doing when I had been so comfortable in the autopilot, in the unfulfilling environment I was in, that I didn't want it. I did not want it. And we butt heads. We did. And it took me a long time to accept that change happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. I didn't want to change. And oftentimes I was forced to change. And at the time I didn't understand why things just kept changing. But when we don't willingly allow the change to happen and accept the change, then the universe will step in and will force the change, and in ways that we don't see coming, or that we find won't be the most beneficial way. But then give yourself some time and you'll see that it was for the best. It happened for the best. And how did I get over this? Well, my solution to that job was to leave. That was my solution. They're trying to change everything. They don't understand how we do this. They don't even understand the process. They're just trying to change it because they're the supervisor and this is what they're here to do. And because they're a supervisor, they think that they can just come in and change everything, no matter what it is. So what did I do? I left. Do you think that was the right move? I'll tell you why it wasn't the right move. Because the universe went, okay, this is what you want to do. You want to leave? Fine, you can leave. So I left and I got a different position that I thought, with a different company that I thought was going to be so much better. You know, they always say the grass isn't always greener. Well, I went into that role with absolute chaos. I was met head on with chaos in every single thing I tried to do. It did not matter if it was me trying to get access to a spreadsheet, access to a new system, trying to do a simple journal entry, trying to do a simple task. I was met head on with chaos. It was an absolute disaster that I can now laugh about now. I mean, it was rough. It was rough. And I never understood it. Never understood it. I kept asking, why am I being met with such friction? Well, it's because I didn't choose to allow the change to happen. Instead, I just fled. And the universe went, here you go. Instead of learning the lesson slowly, we're just going to dump it all on you at once. I didn't last very long in the new position, which I think was always meant to be anyways, because I eventually left to start my own business because I found my true passion. Because what the change did, the change brought clarity, the change brought confirmation. And I had to learn to accept the change. And I had to learn that being present in every moment of every day and not worrying about what tomorrow will bring was the key to overcoming change. Change is going to happen every single day, regardless of what you try to do. You may take the same route home every day from work, and there'll be an accident. You'll have to take a different route. There's change. And look what you did. You might have bitched about it the whole way home, that you had to take a detour that took you 20 additional minutes to get there. Or, if you're stuck in traffic in Texas, where I used to live, and that traffic was always horrendous. And if there was an accident on I-35, a 20-minute drive could turn into a 3-hour drive. Frustrating. But the change happened for a reason. It happens every single day. Embrace the change. The change is a lesson. The change is here to show you what you're not seeing. A change is here to reroute you into a different direction, into a better direction. And if you follow the change and if you allow it to happen, can you imagine what your world would be like? What your reality would be like? Instead of fighting the change, you become a co-creator with it. And when you do that, that is when freedom comes. That is when you feel absolute bliss in your days. Now, I had quit that second job that was absolutely full of chaos and started my own business. And I've had to learn how to literally roll with the punches, so to speak. I had this vision of how my business would look, how everything would work out. And do I think that is exactly what has happened? No. No, I learned very quickly, that the vision that you have from the starting point will continuously shift and change based on the needs. Based on the needs of your business, based on what you're here to do. Literally, change happens every single day. And just going with it makes your life so much easier. Now, another fear, one that I had a very hard time working through, was being judged, fear of being judged, and fear of not being enough. I've had a lot of my own traumas in life. I was born female, and I transitioned late in life to male. And when I started my transitioning, I lived in Texas. And a lot of people who don't live in Texas know, the main motto in Austin is keep Austin weird. And there's a lot of LGBTQ in Texas. There is. But there's also a lot of conservatives. And it is heavily, heavily frowned upon. I experienced so much criticism, harassment when I lived in Texas, and I never felt safe. I feared going into a grocery store. I feared going to the mall. I feared being out in public because people were so quick to judge. And instead of taking the time to get to know someone and to know what's on the inside, that's what matters. And the fear of being judged, you know how I got over that? I allowed people to have control over me when I feared being judged. I allowed their opinions of me to affect me. And now I don't, because I had to learn how to truly love myself. Not just what's on the inside, but what's on the outside as well. And sure, in my mind, I've dealt with a lot of gender dysphoria. And to this day, I even dabble in it here and there. And that's okay, because it's taught me duality. It's taught me that my body is just a vehicle for my soul. My body is literally a vehicle for my soul. And it doesn't matter what the outside looks like because it's not representative of my soul, of what it is on the inside. So I had to learn to love myself and love myself deeply, and not in an egotistical way where I'm conceited. No. Learning to love myself allowed me the space and room to love others and love others with a deep compassion. I can meet them at their, what they would call flaws. I don't believe anybody is flawed. But a lot of people believe that they're flawed. And I would never judge you at all for anything, because we're all here to learn lessons. So the fear of being judged, being misunderstood, feeling watched, evaluated, not being enough. I started saying a mantra, if you will, that I learned from Bashar. And he said it one day and it really resonated with me. And it was, I am who I am, and that is enough. Every single day I say that to myself. I am who I am, and that is enough. And I also like to remind myself and my wife and any others, right? Imagine you have a bubble around you. You're sitting in a room with your coworker and they've got a bubble around themselves. You can only control what's inside of your bubble. You cannot control what's inside of their bubble. So why concern yourself with what is coming from them when all you need to concern yourself is what is coming from you? So I want to do a little exercise. So imagine you have let's do a pair of sunglasses. And I say pair of sunglasses because I'm standing here looking at a pair of sunglasses. Now imagine you have a pair of sunglasses and I ask you, we're going to do an exercise. I ask you to say 3 nice things about these glasses. Okay. So I'm going to say 3 nice things about these glasses. I love that they are blue tinted. I love that they got a black rim. And I love the way they fit on my face. Okay. Now, I would ask you to say 3 things you don't like about the glasses. Okay. 3 things I don't like about the glasses. Now, this is hard because I really do love these glasses. So, I don't like how the nose piece is flattened and I'm always having to reposition them. I don't like that they're kind of see-through and that they change the color of the outside world as I'm looking through them. And I don't like how cold they get on my face because of the metal frame. Now, when I said those 3 things that I liked about them, and then the 3 things that I didn't like about them, did the sunglasses change? No, they didn't. They stayed exactly the same. So my point is when someone is saying nasty things to you, they're expressing their opinion, calling you names, they could be calling you a piece of shit, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Because if you believe that you love yourself enough, their opinions of you does not change you, has no effect on you. Even when they say good things about you, that does not change you. Sure, it'll make you feel good about yourself, but why is their opinion about you, good or bad, changing the way you feel about you? You should already know that. You should already know how loving you are, how kind, how compassionate, how smart, how brave, how much courage you have. You should already know that. So don't let anybody enter your space and call you names and make you feel less than, because you are not. Their words have no value. Their words have no weight. Their words cannot impact your bubble unless you allow it. And remember that. Remember that. No one can change you but you. Again, I thank you so much for listening today. I really, truly appreciate it. And I love you all. And I hope you have a tremendous start to your week with much love and much thanks.